welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and today we're here for my least favorite time of the month, which is wrap-ups.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
You would think because I have a booktube channel, I would want to talk about the books I read, but when you read 20 books a month, it's not fun filming it in one video. I'm thinking of doing like mid-month wrap-ups, and I think it might be helpful for me, especially this time in quarantine. I've been reading a lot of books, and I think I might try that out for October. We'll see how it goes. But alas, you care about what I am reading this month. So let's do a little wrap-up of stats. This month I read 19 books. 3 of them were 5 stars. 6 of them were 4 stars. 7 of them were 3 stars. And 3 of them were 2 stars. I had no 1 stars this month. 13 of the books were from female authors, 6 were from male authors. 6 of these books were from bi-POC authors, 13 of them were from white authors, 10 were adult books, 7 were YA books, and 2 were middle grade. So we'll jump right into it. So first we'll start with the 3 books that I read for a video, which is linked somewhere up here. First book is The Year Shakespeare Ruined My Life by Danny Jensen. This is about a girl who is striving to be valedictorian and takes on an extra role during school to produce the school's play of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Then I read Shine by Jessica Jung. This one follows a Korean American girl who moves to Korea in order to pursue her K-pop career. I ended up giving this one 2 stars. And then to finish that video out, I read The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Katie O'Neill. The Tea Dragon graphic novel series follows this like world or small town where people have these little dragons that are tea dragons, and they have little leaves on them that people use to make tea. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So if you want to hear all my thoughts about those 3 books, you could go watch that video. Then I read a bunch of the Amazon Forward collection, so I feel like there's not much to talk about with these books, so I'm gonna speed right through them. So a couple of months ago, I did read Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. Didn't read it last month, but it's part of the Amazon collection. I gave it 4 stars. Loved it. The first of the ones I read this month was Arc by Veronica Roth. This one I ended up giving 3 stars. Then I read You Have Arrived at Your Destination by Amar Towles, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. Then I read Randomized by Andy Weir, and I gave this one 2 stars as well. Then I read The Last Conversation by Paul Tremblay, and I gave this one 3 stars. And the last one from that series that I read was Summer Frost by Blake Crouch, and that one was by far my favorite. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So essentially this collection that Amazon put forward is just a bunch of short stories. They're like all pretty much under 100 pages, and they talk about science, how far our technology will go in the future, that kind of thing, tied with real world aspects. Think of like a bunch of episodes of Black Mirror. That's essentially what this collection of short stories was about. But my favorite was Summer Frost. Highly recommend it. Blake Crouch, in my eyes, so far can do no wrong. The nonfiction book I read for the month of September was The Secrets of Story by Matt Bird. This is just basically what it talks about. It's a writing guide for perfecting the concept of fiction and story. For a really long time, I have not found a nonfiction book on writing that I particularly enjoyed, but this one is definitely my favorite one so far in my journey. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I don't want to compare works between authors. However, I do find a lot of the writing books that I've read in the past were really obtuse and old and use a lot of examples that are not really relevant to writers today. Matt Bird really touches upon and uses aspects and examples from pop culture, TV, film that are relevant to writers today. I really enjoyed his writing style. It wasn't sluggish or boring. It was extremely vibrant, which I really adored. It was packed with information, but I never felt like any of this information was useless to me. If you've ever read books on writing and always felt like something was missing or that the writing just wasn't for you, it was really outdated, I highly recommend this one. I thought it was great. I'm pretty impressed with this. Then I read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This follows a young girl named Xiomara who comes from a pretty religious home, and because of that, she is scared to tell her mom that she is passionate about poetry and wants to join a poetry club instead of attending catechism and church classes. I flew through this. I highly recommend it as an audiobook because Elizabeth Acevedo narrates the audiobook herself, and she was extremely powerful in highlighting the emotions that she really wanted you to feel. Even though I read this on audio, I was still really able to appreciate the structure of the poems and sentences, and I think that that helped helped in really evoking emotions out of me. People constantly praise Elizabeth Acevedo's writing style, and now that I've finally read one of her books, I completely understand why. Highly recommend this. I thought it was extremely beautiful. The next book I read was The Right Swipe by Alicia Wright. This follows a woman named Rhiannon who is passionate about coding and creating dating apps. Unfortunately, one day when she goes to a conference, she realizes that she is in rival with another dating company, which is being sponsored by a man who ghosted her a couple of months ago. So this book super surprised me. I really didn't expect to love this because I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. The characters, brilliant, smart, sexy, cute. The plot was engaging and it didn't feel like it was only created to pit these two characters together. The sex was fun and consensual. The main plot of the novel was just as interesting as the romance, and I think that that is why it was such an effective read for me and why I adored it so much. I really related to the main character in this book. She is eerily similar to myself. Samson was also a fantastic love interest. I adored him. I wish I met him in real life. He's wonderful. I think if I had to make like one minor complaint, it would be that a lot of romance authors tend to throw this like miscommunication trope at the end to kind of add some conflict before the final resolution. However, I think in this book, it was still quite effective because it works on Rhiannon's character development and really helps her become a grown woman at the end of the book. I literally cannot wait to read more from this author in the future. I'm so impressed. I loved it. Excellent. The next book I read was Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the sequel to Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. Basically, this is a series that follows a 12-year-old girl named Morrigan Crow who, before her 11th birthday, was always hailed as like the bad luck charm of her town. Anything that went bad in the town was blamed on her. And on the night of her birthday, she's taken from her world over to a new world where she goes to this magic school in order to become a like magician in this world. So I was really nervous to go into this book because sequels always disappoint me. I thought Jessica Townsend took what could have been a middle book syndrome kind of story and really amped it up. She's a brilliant writer. Each of her characters has a personality and no two characters are the same. Even the background characters, the side characters, I feel like they're all really unique. The way she describes the world is so incredibly vivid. I feel like I'm in the world of Nevermore, which was kind of a downside because the spooky parts in this book were hella spooky. I was freaking out. She expanded the world so much and we learned so many new things about the magic system, and I'm really excited for the next and final installment in this trilogy because I feel like Jessica Townsend really amped up the maturity level in this book and the stakes were raised. It felt more ominous, so I'm super excited to see where she takes this story. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is part of the Wayfarers series. The first book in this story follows a ship in which a new character from Earth goes on the ship to learn about the different cultures that happen on the ship, and they have kind of this task to transport things within the nebula. The series is a companion series, so this one follows completely different characters. One of them was on the ship and now she's back onto Earth, or planet Sembling of Earth, with her friend Pepper. I love this series. It's so warm and homey to me. Her space operas are just the type to pull at your heartstrings. She makes it so easy to fall into this world because it feels so inclusive and safe, even though the stakes and the plot are really high for the characters. I think it's a real attest to the author that once you finish the book, you kind of want to open the book and read from the beginning again, which is exactly how I feel about Becky Chambers' books. Always. The beginning was a little difficult to get into. I think it's just because it's been a while since I picked up the first book. But once I was into it, once I got to know the characters, I fell in love. I fell back into the story, back into her warm hug of writing, and I loved it. Highly recommend. Then I read another sequel, One Dark Throne by Kendara Blake. So the Three Dark Crowns series follows these triplets who are each queens of their respective islands. However, they are meant to kill each other, and the last one standing becomes the queen of the entire realm until she herself births triplets, and the cycle continues from there. So we do follow 3 sisters, Catherine, Arsinoe, and Mirabella. I can't choose a favorite queen. I think all of them are really strong, and I think that that's what makes this series so incredibly addicting. I started both these books being extremely apprehensive, not knowing if I do actually enjoy this series, and I always end up finishing them being completely shook. So my critiques for the second book are still similar to how I felt about the first book. I do think the writing is quite simple, and just as a reader myself, I enjoy more flowery, more developed writing. Another big complaint I had about this installment was that it focuses more on this character named Jules, which is Arsinoe's best friend, who is not one of the sisters. And I think that that's what made the first half of the book particularly slow, and I was really struggling to get into the book. I have my suspicions on where this series is going, and I'm super excited to continue because, like I said, this feels like candy to me. I go into it not sure, and I end up coming out really enjoying it, so we'll see where it takes me. Then I also continued another series with Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. This is one of my favorite series. Basically, this follows 3 characters: a priestess named Nadia, a king named Seraphim, and then an evil dark king with tattoos and scars named Malachi. So take a guess who's my favorite character. This book is a goth's dream. Emily A. Duncan is so good with aesthetics in this series. The world building will always be my favorite part of the series. I think that the 2 magic systems that are in conflict within this novel are both incredibly interesting and developed. Along with the aestheticism, I think Emily A. Duncan is really good at putting you into the book and putting you into the situations that the characters are in. I really do enjoy all of the characters. They are all anti-heroes. They have a little bit of this like villainous tendency within them. I think the one issue with this book in particular, and why I didn't give it full 5 stars, I did give this 4 stars, is just because of the sheer length of the novel. I think some of this book could have been trimmed because there were a lot of repetition between character interactions. I think there were some scenes that we saw previously and nothing was resolved within the amount of pages between those scenes. But other than that, I did really love this. I can't wait to reread it, and I can't wait for the 3rd book in this series. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Then I read Ghosts of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare and a bunch of other authors who write these short stories with her. But essentially, this is a part of Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter world. This short story collection follows Brother Zachariah as we discover more about the shadow market that is spoken about in the Dark Artifices series. So I gave this a 3.5 stars. There were some stories in this book that I really enjoyed, and then there were some that were pretty lackluster, which I feel like is just a constant thing with me and anthologies. There's always going to be a short story or something that I don't particularly enjoy in the collection. I really did enjoy the overarching narrative about Brother Zachariah and the Herondales. I think each story within the book did feel really unique. I was pretty impressed with the variation of stories to tell within the book, and it's always nice to learn something new about the Shadowhunter world that you haven't previously known before. There were 2 stories in here that really gave me an insight into the books that I have left and the new series that we will be starting soon. My favorites in the series were The Wicked Ones, The Land I Lost because I'm Malik Trash, oh my god, and Forever Fallen because I thought that was a super interesting concept. And if you've read that short story, please talk to me about it because I half don't understand, half am really interested to know what the hell is happening. Then my last 5-star read of the month was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. She is the victim of Brock Turner. This was so hard to read. I listened to it on audio and I need to buy myself a physical copy because there were so many lines that were incredibly impactful that I want to highlight and go back and analyze. But not only was it impactful because of its subject matter, Miller is within her own right an extremely talented writer. Every sentence in this book felt purposeful, and I had so many reactions because of this that spanned from like anger to hopefulness to just dread sometimes. This was so incredible. There's nothing else I can say besides read this book. I think everybody needs to read this book. It was that impactful for me, and if you have not read it, you definitely need to. And then the last book I read in the month of September is We Were Restless Things by Cole Nagamatsu. So I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, but if you want to know why, you can watch my ARC video, which should be coming out probably later this week or next week for my full thoughts on the book. And that's it. We're done. I feel relieved. Are you relieved? I'm super happy. But that's it. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down below in the comments. If you disagree with some of my thoughts, fight with me because I'd love to debate. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I don't know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Bye!